A lot easier than you could ever possibly imagine. So let me click over to my web camera where it's nice and dark to begin with. And I'll try to tilt my screen a little here so I can keep up with the who's in the chat and that sort of thing. It's weird. I almost never get the chat when I flip over this. Okay, so what you probably should have to start this are a couple of pictures just to use for reference. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I did give you guys a couple of sheets of black paper like scrap just to work with. I would start with contour line, and I would start large. Now, here's the problem I'm finding straight off the bat. While I can see that line, I don't think you guys can. So let me switch to a different color. And I'm just going to start contouring this figure that I see here in this picture. And the dealio with contour lines is, yeah, contour lines look a little drunk. They're a little wavy. There's kind of some sort of pleasantness in that. Primitive aspect to that whole situation using a contour line. And all I'm doing is I'm just kind of loosely going down her head. Here's the part that bulges out. She's got lots of forehead. She's got lots of hair. And I'm drawing large. I'm really just trying to fill up that space. All right. Am I 100% worried about the proportion? Not really. She's got tiny little eye slits. Now this is where you can actually start having some fun, because you can go in here once you've got the beginning of her hair and the beginning of her body, or the beginning of whoever you're drawing's body, and you can start lightening things. So let's say I'm looking at the highlights on her. Her highlights are here in the middle of her forehead. I'm being scribbly a little bit, but that's okay. That's kind of the speed that we go with on this. And I didn't have to necessarily make her white in here. I could have made her skin tone red. I could come back and blend the color in with this. Oh, that's why that's not working. That's Crayola. All righty. I can put blue. I could do highlights of blue if I wanted to. I can really jack around with these colors and make this something that's very psychedelic, very trippy. I can switch pencils as I go. Boom, boom. I'll get another shadow here, another down here. She's got more hair hanging in front of her. I'll go back to the green for that. I'll try to keep her hair consistent. I don't care if you overdraw on this. So if you get to a situation where you're like, ooh, I had to go back over a line. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. If something's out of shape, it's almost like you're going abstract expressionist with this. Maybe I'm going to use the green for a highlight on her arm. All right. Maybe I'll bring it in here. Maybe I'll blend some blue with this. Usually when I tell you guys don't go as fast as me, I don't care. You can go as fast as me. These are supposed to have this nice, loose feeling to them. All right. almost kind of like you're sketching. If you want, you can cite angles as you're doing this. It's all good. I'm off the paper already. All right, I'm off the paper here. She's got a leg down here. Actually, I went a little low with her leg. Top of her leg is going to be lighter a little bit. There's a casted shadow across here. I'll use that. I'll start putting in lines for my frets. I'm going to check and see if I have another color that's lighter. Ooh, wow, that popped. Unfortunately, that's not a colored pencil. That's a chalk pastel. I like that, but I don't want to use that. Okay. Maybe I'll come in with a little bit of yellow and start building up this section, that section. Once you have this body done that you feel comfortable enough that you've got the brick and mortar of the building, right? You can take and turn your paper. Hey, there's Leslie. All right. So let's say you got your body in here. I'm going to go back and work on it later, but I want to start filling up this paper because I want to decide what part of the bodies are important, what part of the bodies are not important. So I'm going to add another figure here. I'm going to add Prince. All right. And I'm just kind of looking at what's going on with his head and his skin tone. His hair is black, so I'm going to make some kind of attempt this time to work my values a little bit, which means I can bust up his face here. He's got this amazing jawline. I mean, it's almost a cartoon jawline. All right. And I'll just start popping in a little value here to build up his face. I'm going to put his eyelid here. I'm going to leave a black space for his eyebrow. So I'll go around his eyebrow and use the paper to create the blackness. And boom. Like so. And don't be afraid to mix these colors. You know, if you're like, I'm not happy with this color, I wanted more of a pink. Put down some red, mix some white into it. Play with this stuff. These colored pencils are creamy. No, I did not say we could draw from a cartoon. The cartoon one was actually for the 5-6 class. They were going to take real people and turn them into cartoons. We were doing the Fred Hatt overlapping figures. Now, if you've started with a cartoon person and you haven't done 100% cartoons, you can try to keep that cartoon in there. But like before, remember how we looked at the picture and like Fred Hatt would put up bone structure and things? Maybe you would want to go back at some point and like, let's say you did Mickey Mouse. I'm trying to think of creative problem-solving ways to pull this off. If you did Mickey Mouse or I did Mickey Mouse, I would try to add a few humans to make this figure drawing thing work. But I might go back and show part of Mickey's skeleton. I might show his skull or what I would imagine a giant mouse skull. Oh, Moana is pretty human, you know, proportion-wise for Disney. So I was going to say, you could send me a picture of it. I could give you my impression. But I'm just going in here. I'm messing with the colors. I'm going to take just a quick step over here to see if I got an actual white instead of a chalk white. I guess this is a good reason to never prep your colored pencils at night. What about you, buddy? Nope, you're a parallel too. Evil parallels. Ah, there we go. All right. This is part of the reason I wanted to grab a Prisma. Let's see, I want to throw down an area of white here. Pop a few more highlights here in his face, just for fun. The best part about doing this kind of thing is it does not have to be 100% correct. It can be kind of raw. It can be more expressionistic if you choose to. I'm going to bring a little white in with his body here just to make this stand out some more. It's almost like he is birthing this guitar. I don't know if you guys even ever listened to Prince, but Prince was amazing. I didn't always like his music, but as far as a musician goes, if you could see him live, didn't matter what he was playing. He was playing whatever he was playing amazingly. So I will always respect this guy. Plus, he wasn't as crazy as Michael Jackson. He was crazy. He wasn't Jackson crazy. All right, bum, bum. Another leg down here. Another leg down here. Now, if I want to take that red and start, or that white, and start popping some red over it, if you have colors that don't jump out, and there's a good chance that you do, you know, because I divided up the sets the best I could, but I couldn't give you guys everything. So if you want to take and pop some colors that aren't standing out in with this white, and if you want them to be even lighter, you can come back with the white, roll that on the top of that again, and that will make that color lighter. And you can keep building these colors by blending. And making them really, really stand out like that. You don't have to. I wouldn't do it everywhere, but in areas that I want to jump, yeah, I would totally do that. Like, take a look. I don't know if you can see this in the picture. Top of his hair is bright white because it's catching a highlight. All right. So it's being hit by the stage lights. This is white at the top. I may not want it fully white. Maybe I want to take and use some of my yellow and pop my yellow into there to make it a brighter yellow. Okay, I could totally do that. And you just keep layering, you keep building until you start to feel like you've got something you really think looks pretty cool. And if things overlap or things get underdrawn, like maybe I'm not going to spend any more time on that guitar. I'm just going to work on maybe the folds in his clothing. You know, find the highlights of those folds, bring those folds in. If they're wrong, well, nobody's going to ever see the picture you're working from. So you go, oh no, it's totally how it is. And plus, sometimes when we're doing portraits, we're doing things, we have to change stuff. I did a wonderful charcoal, probably the last charcoal I did, because I hate charcoal because I'm left-handed, and we go this way across the paper. So we smear everything. But I did this charcoal of Charles Mingus, my favorite jazz bass player. And in the photo, his hands look like sausages. They were sausagey, totally. And I drew them like that. And then I got done with the picture and I'm like, wow, that plays off well on the photo, but in the picture, it looks ridiculous. So what am I going to do? And I went, well, I'm going to have to go back and add more detail. So, I mean, a job as an artist is sometimes go, what can I do off my reference material to make this look better, to make certain things stick out or certain things pop? All right, so there's my figure drawing Number 2, yeah, I would go back and work on that a little bit, but I would also then rotate the paper. All right, now I'm going to go even bigger with BB here. And his hat, I'm going to use to overlap what else is going on. So the fact that his hat cuts into people, not bothering me in the least, because this is supposed to almost be, I don't want to call it a word find, because that would be weird. But I want this to be large enough and interesting enough that people keep searching at it, that they go, oh, here's a body, and there's a body, and B's tie is black, so we're going to go with this black tie. We're going to slide that here. We're going to curve around his jacket. I'm actually going to start an oil painting of B.B. King that's pretty much life-size. When I get the video done, I'll let you guys know if it's on YouTube in case you want to check it out. But I had these cool vestment cabinets left over from my grandpa when he passed away, and they were supposed to be part of something else, and it dawned on me it was never going to happen. So I cut up these cabinets and I used the doors to be frames. And right now it looks pretty good. I'm hoping you guys can see that. It is awful light. All right, let me come back with the white. Put that on top of the red to make that stand out. And in this case, I just kind of went with the outline first. That's more of a proportion issue. It's an old Martin Dobro. Never seen B.B. King play a Dobro. Plus he's got a capo. That's even weirder. B.B. King never played chords. Maybe when he was this young he tried, I don't know. He would just sing, then his guitar would sing. In this case, I can actually go for the whites of his eyes. The other ones, you really couldn't see their eyes. The girl was squinting. Prince was kind of too far away. But I can start to build this up. All right. So I think you guys got the general idea of how to do this at this point. You're just putting one body on top of the other. You're playing with these colors. You're getting vibrant with these colors. One way to do it is do it with all colors first, and come back with that white and start blending that into little areas that you want to stand out for whatever reason. And then hopefully, not very good B.B. King. Hopefully when you're done, you got something that is cool and awesome and large and proud and all the things that you need it to be. Okay, so I started this in class today and didn't realize till I started editing the video how poorly the video looked. You couldn't really see too much. So I'm going to do another shot here and try to show it to you on a much better camera. As long as this is out of the way. So I'm going to start with my B.B. King picture. I'm going to do a little bit of sighting. Once again, as I'm drawing this, I'm doing this really just kind of loose and fast. And yeah, there are some details in here that may look more like scribbles, but that's part of the interest that's going here with this type of drawing, is just this kind of loose freedom that you have while you are creating these images. Now they're supposed to be kind of scribbly, and as I said earlier in class, you can throw down areas of white you can come back and put a color over the top of that white. This is almost like drawing backwards, because what you want to do is you want to pop up contrast. So let's say, for the sake of the argument, and always check, make sure your pencil is a Prisma if you're drawing on black paper, or at least something that's got enough pigment that it's going to stick out. I can go back and put blue over the top of this, and this is really going to start to jump out. And then I can fade that blue into the black if I choose. Boom, 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 boom. All right. I can do the same thing down here. I'm looking at the lightness of his shirt against the blackness of his tie. And this is scribbling. Like, this isn't even close to doing feathering. That's how loose we're keeping this at this moment. We're just going to kind of enjoy the colors that we have. Now, happens if I put a yellow over the top of that. Oh, that yellow pops out a little more brightly. Boom, 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 boom. Alright. Top of his shoulders are darker, so now I'm going to use some of this yellow without the white behind it. And I'm going to just use it to imply shadows or to imply highlights in this case, and I'll leave the black to do what the black does. There's a negative space right here at the crotch of his arm. I do want a little bit of blue in his neck. Could I throw some other colors on there? Sure, I could. I could pop a little green in his forehead. Boom. That looks pretty cool. That looks pretty cool. A little bit on the cheek, a little under the chin. I can put that color in a few other areas just so I feel like it blends in or it becomes part of the image. It's scribbly, but it has its own sort of je ne sais quoi. Alright, so I got about as much of him as I want on that image. And now I'm going to flip this paper yet again. I'm going to go this direction. Alright, so I'm going to start with Sonny Boy Williamson over here. And I'm going to start with part of his collar. I would have really rathered a full figure. That's okay. Make sure that's in shot. That's in shot. And I'm not putting any white mix with this at the moment because even though I do eventually want it to stand out, I'm kind of just feeling around this image at this moment. Maybe I'll take the angle of his shoulder down there, come up along the side. It's got a long spot here for an ear, and then a head. And yeah, I'm going to draw right on top of my other drawing without a second thought, because that's what I want to do. I'm also going to look at the highlights in his head. I'm going to scribble those down. Now instead of shadows, I am just looking for highlights in his face. I'm not even going to use that one for the teeth. So, let me take a quick look here at the teeth. Alright, and now I can actually come back and start adding some white on top of my colors that I feel look pretty decent.
It's just a very fluid, very relaxed form of drawing. So there's no reason to get bent out of shape about this. If it's not coming out the way you want it to, you really just kind of go on area from area. I'm trying real hard to leave room for his mustache. And now I'm going to start playing with colors. Alright, still trying to keep his hair dark, which means I'm going to try to leave the value of the paper. Even going to extend up a little more there. We've got a bit of a line coming down here. Gonna have some blue. There's a shadow on the wall behind him. Now what I have not done, which we did in some of the other Fred Hatt stuff, let me pop some highlights here into him, is I've made no attempt to show any sort of skeletal structure. So maybe just along this edge, I'll start to flare out for what would be a rib cage here. I worked some white highlights on top of the rib cage. Alright, kind of a weird place to put a rib cage, but it's working for me. That's all in shot. Turn this sucker again. Maybe I'm going to take and emphasize her cheekbone. Boom, boom. Carve her head like it's a skull. Alright, feeling pretty good about that. Get some forearm in here. Probably a little more than I wanted to do bone structure wise. But I'm okay with that. Flip this around. Now you don't have to do this, but it's kind of fun. And you know, I'm trying to fill up my paper and make it interesting. So that's kind of where we ended up. Am I going to do one for B? Maybe. Now that I'm doing this, maybe I'm going to make up some parts. So forth and so on. Now, am I done? No, I'd like to work a lot more colors in here. If I've got a heavy area of red, I want to put a little red in other places just to pull me through, you know, because adding that color into even little spot areas is going to create a sense of flow and unity between all these shapes. Now, I have one more that I would like to put over this, but I will save that for another time so I don't talk your ear off and so you don't go, I would rather be doing this than watching you doing this, which is totally legit. All right, guys, that's about it. Have a good day. Stay out of trouble. You can't stay out of trouble, don't get caught.